Hey guys, and welcome back to Barrel Age Faith. It is great to have my friend Justin Menard back on the show.
What's going on, brother? Good to see you, man. How's everything?
It's good. By the way, if you guys don't know, I mean, I'm sure you do. Justin's with the Transfigured Life with Father Jonathan Ivanov. Don't need
Yes,
an
Father
introduction, but
Jonathan.
that's Justin.
Shout out to Father.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. I got to have him on the show.
Oh,
I,
he'd
I
love to join you.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get him in person, but we've had a hard time in coordinating it. But maybe he might come on in person in the studio. So we'll see.
Oh, an in-person interview. Okay, so I
Maybe.
know you. I know you had Father Joshua not too long ago. Who else? I feel like there was another priest that you interviewed. If I'm not mistaken.
I interviewed Deacon Seraphim, Richard
That's right.
Rowland was on,
Okay.
Father Christopher Foley was on,
Great.
Father
Great. Great.
Joshua. Yeah, so there's been people coming on. I'm getting ready to interview Father Stephen DeYoung tomorrow night on his new book.
Wow,
So
that's
stay
gonna be
tuned on Barrel
fire.
Age Faith at 10 o'clock tomorrow night. You can listen to our conversation about his new book, The Baal, Biography of the Devil. And this was not planned to happen right before Halloween, but that's what's happening.
No, that's dope. That's how you have that that setup there. He is a brain, by the way. Like I'm blown away by how much he could just retain,
Yeah.
remember. It's phenomenal. He is very brilliant.
Yeah, he's a real gift to the church, and I love reading his book. So we'll probably in the interview even try to maybe even branch out to some of his other works and do some Q&A. So definitely stay tuned for that tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern time with Father Stephen DeYoung. But tonight I have the one and only Justin, and we are talking about why we don't have smartphones. So you see us on YouTube, but we actually, as Orthodox Christians, as fathers, husbands, like we don't have a smartphone, but we don't actually have a flip phone either. So,
Right.
Justin, you want to tell them what phone you use?
Yeah, so I'm using the light phone. It is it looks like a, depending on who you ask, like a little Game Boy or a Cube or something like that. Very useful. But yeah, this is kind of what I'm using, and I know that you are on the Wise phone, so using your
Yeah, yeah,
wisdom.
right here. It it's not a block, but it looks kind of more like a phone. It's just you can see it. I have it in my case. I should take it out of the case so you guys can see it, but that's what it
Yeah,
looks like. Yeah.
yeah. If my camera was as clear as yours, I'd kind of show you the interface a little bit. Man, they should kind of get some kind of affiliation for this, right?
Yeah, definitely. We'll shout out to the, you know, Lightphone people, Wisephone people. I don't care. We're just going to be making a plea to people to like make changes in your lives because it does have spiritual consequences. So
Mm,
whether you keep your smartphone doing some significant changes to it or moving maybe to a phone like what Justin and I have. So that's
yeah,
kind of what we're talking about tonight. Kind of tech asceticism, if you will, fasting, like,
yeah.
but applying it not just to food, or our favorite things, but also what we consume digitally or through technology.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that technology without some sense of control to it is having a problem. There's a problem there, right? You'll be surprised. Like a lot of people, I think I read it was like a study. I forget where I read it, but it's like people are consuming about 5 hours a day on average on their smart device, and just imagine what you could do with 5 extra hours. Now, granted, like that might look different for different kind of people depending on who you're talking to, but if the studies are correct, like wow, like that really changes a lot of things. And I know for many people, they say we don't have time for whether it's exercise or something like that, or maybe like prayer, important things that we would value. So we would have to say that if we eliminate some of these distractions, then there has to, it would change how we go about our daily lives. So I don't know. I think there's a lot that we could get into in regards to the smartphones,
Oh, sure.
but the spiritual aspect probably might be at the top of the list.
Yeah, yeah. I think well, definitely the smartphone just goes wherever you are. I mean,
Right.
when you have a laptop or an iPad, I mean, there's a little bit of a physical boundary going on there, right? You can leave it somewhere. When you have a phone, it's very easy to just it's always with you in a way.
Mm,
Because somebody needs to get a hold of you or something like that, right? We don't a lot of us don't have, like, landline phones that you pick up off the wall. This is how people get a hold of us in emergencies or some kind of need, so we're carrying our phones wherever. The problem is that phone can turn into anything you want, and that's
mm,
extremely dangerous for any human being.
right.
And it becomes even more damaging when you throw in kids and youth, young adults. The stakes just go way up because then they're forming habits their
Right.
whole lives with this thing. So I think the stakes are actually like significant on how we parent, how even like Orthodox pastors like how they shepherd their own flock. This
Yeah,
is a big deal.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um, one of the reasons for the jump for me, and I'm sure we're going to kind of get into some of the reasons, is the prayer life. Right. I feel like prayer has diminished for me with the distraction of the smartphone. And I feel like personally, I use my phone too much. Or and that was a problem for me. Like, I think first it has to start by you have to recognize that there is some kind of problem. Like, if there is this idea of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's something I can manage, or whatever the case may be, you've lost half of the battle, kind of. You know what I mean? So you have to recognize that this is an issue. And especially if, like, a lot of people, they have their phones like right in front of their bed or something like that. Like, imagine, just the daily dose of distraction and that it just causes, it's really problematic. It could be very problematic. Why'd you go towards the wise route?
Yeah, so I switched to the Wisephone back like almost 3 years ago. So I've
Wow.
had it for a while. I will say this, the Wisephone 1 was extremely difficult and inconvenient, but it did the function, like, it did what it was supposed to do, but it was, like, a completely stripped down phone, and I found it, it was very good in so many ways,
Hmm.
but had its challenges with, like, "Hey, let's navigate," like, let's say I go to a big city and I gotta navigate, well, their maps on there were horrible, so I was getting lost. Um, Now with the Wisephone 2, all those problems are pretty much gone. It's very convenient. It has Google Maps, which some people may not like some of the Google stuff that's available. You can switch that off. You don't have to have it on there. But they do have like Google Maps, and I'm really, really happy about that. So I didn't get lost in Chicago a few weeks ago. Um, so, anyways, I switched 3 years ago.
Family trip in Chicago.
Not a family trip. No, I went to a conference,
Mm,
to hear Jonathan Pageau speak.
nice.
Uh, Jonathan Pageau, Paul Kingsnorth, Rod Dreher, and Deacon Sarah from Richard Rowland at the Touchstone Conference. So it
Mm,
was it was fun. Like actually was not an Orthodox conference, but the four keynote speakers were Orthodox. So it was a kind of a significant moment.
that's
Um,
dope.
it was pretty cool. But anyways, I was really happy to have the Wisephone 2. So it does have like apps and tools, but they're all pre-vetted, no distracting, no social media, no distractions. But a lot of those apps that you might use for financing or banking. But anyways, I switched 3 years ago. There was a number of different reasons. One of the things you have to know about me is that my wife made me get basically a smartphone. I mean, she didn't really make me, but it was one of these things where there wasn't like the Wise phone didn't exist back in 2016. So I think 2016 is when I finally switched to like a smartphone. I had
A
a
brick.
little dumb phone for many
Yeah.
years. My grandma had an iPhone when I was still using a dumb phone. So I've
Wow.
always been a little bit like this. Um Part of it is I'm an outdoor guy. I also like writing, and I knew what a phone like that could do to my brain in a way,
Mm,
be very distracting, uh, always be looking at some theological article rather than writing. Uh,
right. Right.
so anyways, I did make the switch back in 2016 because I became a Catholic youth minister.
Okay.
And I had to, like, have a lot more availability for my Catholic parish and people being able to get a hold of me and being able to do all sorts of things. So I switched to a smartphone. I hated it for years, but I had no idea, like, how to go back 'cause
Yeah.
the options were horrible. They just were awful, like, I mean, really bad dumb phone options. Then when Matt Fradd started marketing the Wise phone back, 3, maybe 4 years ago, I was very intrigued.
Mm,
And, and then eventually I made the switch. It was difficult because it was such a minimalistic phone. Now the Wisephone II is a very balanced, much more of a balanced picture. So what's been really cool about that switch is, like, when I'm at the playground with my kids, I'm not responding to emails. I'm not seeing any notifications from social media. Of course, when you're on YouTube, things like what we do, it's very easy to become very obsessed with
oh yeah,
responding to people, right? I mean, how
right.
how often in the daytime could you potentially respond to comments?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like there's hundreds of comments, and man, you could really get lost in it if you want to, right? And I mean, this as a YouTuber, like you can't respond to every comment, even if you want to. Like there has to be some kind of guardrail. And I think part of us even making the transition to some of these dumb phones, and even probably would be an encouragement for other people to maybe consider going to a dumb phone, is just understanding you as a person. You have limits. Um, God is infinite, right? God is eternal, but as for us, we're not. And I think something that the phone does is it kind of makes us operate in a way that's like a almost like a warped form of deification, right? This idea of like, think about it for a second, Kyle. Like with your phone, you can be tapped into everything that's going on in the world right now. And you even have access to almost everybody, right? And I've come to the realization that like I was not meant to live this way. No one's meant to live this way, right? There's a sense of like, think about it. You can go on Facebook or social media, you can see something very joyful, right? Something worthy of celebration, like a wedding, someone getting married, or maybe I don't know, someone's having a baby or something, and then you can see the most painful thing ever on social media, right? Someone getting, assassinated, or something very serious, a school shooting of some sort. And it's like you can have such a range of emotions so quickly, just in 30 minutes. Like not even like from Wednesday to Thursday, right? But like literally from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And we're so locked in, we're so tapped in. It's not healthy for us,
Right.
there's a sense of, I think you said it, we are what we consume. The book of Proverbs even talks about this idea of like guarding our hearts, right? And imagine what it's doing to the children, right, that are consuming all this at such a young age. And you and I are both fathers, so I'm sure you and I have thought about the implications of this for our daughters, our children, you know so it's definitely something that it should concern every parent, and not only parents but just people in general.
Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan Bajeau talked about how we're producing a generation that's gamified and pornified. He said this in his talk.
Yeah,
Touched on. I'm like, those are two phrases that make a lot of sense. And so, I mean, that was already an issue even when we were young, but the availability is literally just drenched every square inch of the web. And so
right,
now we're seeing guys in their 20s getting married, and they're gamified, pornified, and that's just so it's just devastating for the family. It's devastating for society, and so you've got to set up boundaries.
right.
Uh, and a lot of times we would use, people will use the excuse, well, God will help me overcome this, fill in the blank, whether it's your anxiety or your anger or your addiction. God will help, and He does help, but God also calls us to make like real changes. And I think the Orthodox tradition understands this quite well,
Mm.
um,
Yeah, yeah,
because we have a whole tradition of fasting and asceticism. So
yeah.
this thing that we're talking about with phones, it just makes complete sense
Makes so much sense.
in
Yeah.
Orthodoxy. But as a Protestant, it was always like pray harder.
Yeah,
And if you're trying to create these boundaries or you're trying to do this, well, that's your works trying to do it, not God. It's like, no, 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 no. This is, and I understand this is not like what all Protestants say. What I'm saying is
Sure,
there's
sure.
a stream
No, no,
of
no, no.
thought within
Right, right,
Protestantism, and I know it because I was a Protestant, and I also helped people who were Protestants, and that was some of their excuses. Like, I don't want to change my life.
right.
Like when I would try to help a young guy, sometimes they would give me those excuses. Oh, you know, you're just thinking too much about what I need to change rather than just, praying more. It's like, no, you don't understand how the Holy Spirit works, obviously.
Right. It's soul and body.
Yes, soul and body.
Yeah.
Now I do have a quick question. I don't want to forget them real quick, but um somebody said, let's see here. Oh, it already went away. Somebody was asking about Spotify. So Spotify has been added to the Wisephone too, just so you know. It was a big sort of, they've been having these big debates on what to add and what not to because they
Right,
don't want to
right, right.
have, and Spotify was one of those big debates, but it is available on there if you do want to listen to music or you have like a podcast you kind of listen to, but they don't really have much more than that. I think Spotify may have been the only compromise. So you can't find like YouTube music. You can't find a lot of the other things that you might do to listen to podcasts, maybe like even listening to Barrel Age Faith or the Transfer Your Life. Um, so it's a big balance there. Now, I am kind of advocating for the with the Wise Phone people because they do have some faith-based apps. I'm trying to work with them to get more Orthodox apps on there.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, people should probably already know this that follow your channel. I mean, you got the code there, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you did kind of freeze up there just for a second, but like you can get the Wise Phone right now until November 23rd. You can get $50 off. And then after November 23rd, it drops to like $25 off. So we'll have Luther hop back in here. Uh, so just so that you're aware, $25 off after November 23rd, but right now, limited time, $50 off. Might make a good Christmas present to you, to yourself, to your spouse, to your family. Just so you're aware, that's the Wise Phone current discount.
mm,
Yeah. So yeah, definitely feel like throw in your like questions that you have about the Light Phone or the Wise Phone. I don't care what people choose. I have friends. I have more than one friend, not just you. I have a few other friends that use the Light Phone and
mm.
enjoy it. It seems to be more minimalistic, right?
It is. It definitely has its like, you know, there's pros and cons with everything, right? So it definitely is pretty basic. But I mean, you could download some music on here. I've noticed that things on here are intentional. So like you have to go on your computer, plug it in, connect,
Exactly.
which is great because like I feel like you need some sense of struggle, right? When it comes to like trying to like do stuff tech wise, because if it's too easy to like if it's too simple, right? Then you're just gonna kind of cave into a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
So
it would be like loading up your fridge with like tons of meat for Lent.
right, right,
I'm
right.
gonna say no to all that meat in there for
Yeah,
like
right.
50 days. It's like that's a bad setup.
Right, right.
There's a reason why we have a Sunday dedicated to eating up the rest of your meat, right? I mean, so that's the whole idea is you're there's not some magic thing that happens to you that says,
Right,
"Well, it's Lent. I magically don't want meat anymore." That's just not what happens.
right,
And it's the same way with your device. It's not like, "Well, if I pray enough, I'll magically not want to look at this or do this."
right.
You have to set up real
Yeah.
boundaries. It'd be like having chocolate cake under your bed every night,
Right.
right? I mean, if you're trying to give up chocolate cake or whatever, but it's there every night under your bed, even if you survive one night, you're probably going to eat that chocolate cake.
Every night is hilarious.
There's a lot of helpful analogies. So I used to teach high school classes, theology. I had to use a lot of analogies for my high school students to
Oh
help
yeah,
them think about what their smartphone was doing to their life, their spiritual life, and all sorts of psychologically,
to
their
their brain,
relationships, all sorts of
anxiety.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
even learning. I mean, try
Yeah.
teaching kids who have a TikTok brain. I mean, it's not easy for our for school for us school teachers. It's not easy teaching the TikTok brain. They can't focus.
Yeah. So I actually used to be a high school teacher, and I've seen TikTok brain. You know what I
There you
mean?
go.
And oh man, it's hard for teachers. Like, especially like if, yeah, you're constantly trying to get people locked in, and it's like, hey, um, I worked at a tough school, so it definitely, yeah, you don't want to, you, yeah, we definitely got to do things differently with our next generation.
So I answered the question about why I went to the Wise phone.
Yeah.
What was some of the reasons on why you ended up? And I know we've mentioned some, but why did you choose going to the Light phone?
Yeah, so part of it was I believed in the philosophy of the light phone. Like I've watched interviews of just kind of crazy like that, where I would like look at what the CEO, or what just basically what people that are part of the company are saying about it. Not just people that have the phone. Even though I've seen stuff like that too on YouTube, and I just like that they're really focus on just trying to get people their time back. I think time is just such a valuable asset, and just the way that culture is going, I just feel like it's not something that one could take lightly. But it could have been any phone, really. Like there's flip phones, there's the Wisephone II. Um, there's so many phones that you can go to. The the essential part of it is just having certain guardrails, right? Having that sense of protection. So whether it be the light front or not, even though I believed in the philosophy, like I told you, I could I could use any other phone.
Hmm.
And the light phone did take a while to come in, so I pre-ordered it like a long time ago, and I just got it like what, in maybe September, which is crazy. Even though I ordered it like in January. So I was invested at that. Like I was like, there's no going back. You had to wait so long. You know what I mean? Yeah, there was no thinking twice about it. But yeah, man, I think important factors for me, like the spiritual aspect, like I want to pray more, and I feel like I wasn't as consistent in my prayer rule being on my phone so much. I also want to uh, also be more present with my family. I think my wife has mentioned that she feels like that I'm on my phone a lot, and I have my daughter who sometimes like she wants to play, she wants to have a good time, and she's not going to be this age forever, right?
Right.
And I don't want to be absorbed and miss out on these priceless moments. So there was a sense of like, man, I value family. Like family matters to me. What's important to me is being around the people that I love. So it just made more sense to me to kind of make that jump. And if it's true that people spend, five uh, about 5 hours a day, if it's true, I don't know what the math looks like. I don't know if that's like 70 days out the year or whatever. But just like you do the math, like some people are losing a good percentage of their life just looking at a square box. And that's not a life worth living. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I think that technology is good. Like it's kind of like money, right? It's a tool. It's neutral. It's how you use it. But I didn't want it to master me. I wanted to use it for a particular purpose. And so um, now I'm still working through some of that. Like it's not like I have it all figured out. I started in September, right? And there is an aspect of like, we're on YouTube, so there is like just this forced reality that we still have to, in some ways, be engaged with technology or the internet in ways probably that we don't want to. But a healthy balance is just really good and important. Also, I'll say real quick, there's a guy is by the name of Luke Smith. He's a YouTuber. He's also an Orthodox Christian. um, I spent a weekend at his house him and his lovely family. And Luke, if I could if I could brag on him real quick, so he was like almost unplugged from the world, and me and my family were here at his house or whatever the case may be. Lovely area, great time with him for the weekend, but we were disconnected from all sorts of technology. It was crazy, and it's like in my mind I'm thinking, how does one live like this? Like there's just trees and life and nature, and I love that stuff. Like don't get me wrong, I'm down for a camping trip if you want to go. Um, but there was a sense of like, all right, I'm ready to get back to the technology, the city and the technology. As much as I was loving my time with him, but it was a peaceful life that he was living. Right? It's just he would sit, read books, pray, drink tea, like have good conversation, and it was all great. You know what I mean? I love it. And I remember something that kind of stood with me. We were chatting. I don't know how we started talking about like things we like to like listen to on our commute or our way. And I was just talking to him about some of the stuff I like to listen to. And he was just like, "Do you always have something playing while you're driving or something like that?" And I was like pretty much. And and I probably was like, dang, this guy's probably doing the Jesus prayer the whole car ride home to wherever he's going. But he sometimes sits in silence, and he's like, sometimes it's just a beautiful sound of silence. And that kind of resonates with me because I know I know times when I've practiced this sense of solitude and silence, just how therapeutic it could be. And I knew at some point like I had to make a jump. Like he even uses kind of a dumb phone and just like a simple life, and he doesn't have to live a simple life, but it was intentional. And so it'd be beautiful for us like as Christians just to look at some of the saints, and how they have lived very intentional lives. Like, I mean, Saint Anthony the Great literally sent packs his whole life and goes into a desert, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a big question for me. It's like, would the saints use your normal average smartphone in a normal
Mm,
average way? And it was really hard for me to ever answer that question. Yes, I don't think that they would have.
I don't think so
Either
either.
would not have used a smartphone, or it would have been something kind of like what we use. And I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody by like, oh
Sure.
my
Yeah.
gosh, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm not. That's not the whole point of this.
Sure.
Um, for me, I found it to be empowering. Um, it's been a
Right.
great source of empowerment. I don't mean that in any kind of like negative, sinful way. I mean in the process of being more of a creative person, and not a
Yes.
consumer as much. So I noticed when I had my normal smartphone for years, it's just so easy, and it's still hard for me because I'm on my laptop doing work, but it's very easy to be in content consumption mode
Sure.
rather than prayerful creativity, where you're
Yeah.
producing something beautiful, um, that can really, enrich the world. Um, and that can't just come out of like those sort of creative processes can't just come out of nowhere. Like you have to have a mind anchored in prayer, the heart anchored in prayer
Right.
for that kind of thing to happen. I mean, there's been studies to show that smartphones are killing imagination in kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Talk
been
about it.
plenty of studies what it's doing to their brains. Like they can't actually imagine because they're constantly doom scrolling, or they're constantly consuming. You go to restaurants, they're all on their iPads. They're not having conversations. They're not using their imaginations with their friends. It's killed childhood.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
it's devastating. We can talk about all the dark temptations, but just the fact of alone of how it's devastating childhood is a massive problem. My son's the only kid in his class. He's in 4th grade who doesn't have a phone, doesn't have a
Wow.
smartphone. Only
Wow.
one. But he's also, we get messages from his teacher, like he's
She's doing
like
great.
the most well behaved. He sets the example in the class. He still has his imagination, the good kind, the childlike sort of innocence. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's y I know parents have a very hard time, "Well, my kid will hate me." Who cares?
Right,
I
right.
mean, what?
That's a
They're
great
not gonna
point.
actually hate you.
Yeah.
They're not gonna actually hate you when you're doing the very thing that's protecting them,
Right. For
right?
sure.
When I interviewed the CEO a couple years ago on the Wisephone, they did a lot of studies on teenagers, and a lot of these, polls were shocking. The teenagers deep down wanted their parents to help them out of this pit that they had created
Wow.
for
Wow.
themselves, and they're like, they're not telling their friends this. They're not even telling their parents this, but they're telling the survey, "Why isn't my parent helping me get out of this? Like,
Yeah.
why are they letting me have access to this? Why are they significant?" This is significant forms of child neglect, in my opinion. Uh, when you
Yeah.
just hand your kid a smartphone and say, "Have fun,"
Have fun. Like I
you
need some,
know,
and
even
granted,
Christian parents they're either naive or they don't feel equipped to
yeah,
navigate this new world.
yeah,
So I think one big step like this, like the Wise Phone or the Light Phone. My oldest kid, who's a teenager, uses the Gab phone, which is even more stripped down than this Wise Phone. It's geared more towards kids and teens. So he's a teenager. He has the Gab phone, um,
right.
which doesn't have much on there, but he can make a phone call and he can text and check the weather. He loves checking the
Mm.
weather app.
That's funny.
Um, somebody, real quick, some people have been asking about the Wise Phone. Yes, it does have Audible. That's new. Um, Again, one of those kind of like tricky things because you could just be like listening to books, um, all the time, and I guess not hanging out with your kids. But some of these are very strategic, like Spotify and Audible. You're more likely to listen to a book at the appropriate time rather than probably listening to it at the playground, but you got to make these decisions for yourself. So Wise Phone 2 does have Audible. Somebody else asked this question. If they add the Square Appointment app, I'd buy one. They do have it on there. So I know a lot of people, they've told me this over the last 3 years because I've been talking about the Wise Phone for a while now. Almost 90% of people said, I would get the Wise Phone if it has this one app that I need for work. I've had so many people tell me that.
Yeah.
Now the Wisephone 2 does have those options because like a farmer might need an app to run his tractor today. Like these are like real problems. I mean, you
Sure.
got to run your tractor. So if it's
And
not
that's
on
true.
the Wisephone, all you got to do is email them and they'll vet it to make sure there's not like dark content and all those kinds of things, and then they add it on there.
Yeah.
So now, like, again, it's equipping people to now be able to like navigate life with a little bit of technology, but not be overwhelmed by it.
Mm,
I think that's the intentional decisions they're making at Techless with the Wise Phone.
that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Seems like they're really making moves over there.
Yeah, they are because I mean, you don't want. I mean, there might be like the super minimalist people who are like, well, that's stupid. Why'd they add that on there? But 90% of people, they're drowning in their current smartphone and they need a way out. And
Right.
this Wise Phone can help almost everybody. Now, I don't know if everybody in the world can literally switch to, um,
Yeah. So, I mean, for
like
some
not
people,
literally everybody can. Like, for
yeah.
example, my wife doesn't have one, and that's because she doesn't have a computer. Like, she doesn't use anything but her phone, and she uses apps to schedule soccer with teams that we take our
Right.
kids to, things like that. So she would have a very hard time doing the switch just because she just doesn't use other devices for like typical things. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think another thing that I'm thinking through as far as with something that makes social media use a little less appealing is I think it's really easy to judge people online. You know, you see all kinds of things, and at least I could speak for myself. Like I didn't like what sometimes scrolling through social media did to me, or just like what I've noticed about myself as I engaged with it, right? So you'll see something, maybe something that's super ridiculous, right? And you can't almost help sometimes but to like not think the best of someone. Like, oh man, I can't believe they think that about, this this group of people or about this situation or something like that. And it's like, I mean, scripture's very clear, like, judge not lest you be judged. There's this aspect of, like, I mean, we during Lent we pray through this, this idea of not judging our brother. And social media, it's easy to do that. Like, if you don't believe me, just go on any YouTube channel of any big YouTuber. Like, literally, it's like, oh, this person's the most terrible person in the world, or yeah, like, like, and you almost forget, like, they're real people with real families. And it's like, oh, this person's so inauthentic, and look how they do apologetics, and they're such a, and it's like, we champion our camps, right? And granted, like, I've done it, right? I'm guilty. I've been there. It's like, you're rooting for your team, whatever that means. And but I don't know. I wonder how healthy it is for us spiritually, like what it's doing to us. Like, if we're trying to be, become gods by grace, right? Should we have this sense of animosity towards those that we disagree with in that way? And I wonder what it's doing to us. I don't know. Something
Right.
I've been thinking through.
Well, it's that anger is damaging to ourselves,
Right.
and that can leak out into our relationships. First of all, if you're angry at this random person online that you don't even know, that anger can just leak out like
Right.
onto your closest people, and you don't even know why you're angry. But then you're around angry stuff all day long with you're consuming.
Right.
So
Right.
no surprise, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's also the issue that you can't. The moment that you start demonizing people, you no longer see them as someone who could potentially become a
Right.
Christian or become like a deeper Orthodox Christian, right? I mean,
Mm,
I think Ben from Cleave to Antiquity is a really good example. He was definitely
right.
like an intense Protestant apologist. Like he could be very intense, like
Right.
on
Right.
different
Right.
places. And I really appreciate him. I just did an interview with him. But what I'm
Mm,
saying is it could have been really easy to just be like demonize Protestant apologetics or Orthodox apologetics or Catholic, like demonize that person.
right.
And then what's happening? Well, if you damage that relationship with them, it's very difficult to then be someone who is sharing the faith with them.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I
That's a
mean?
good point.
You
Yeah.
see everybody as a potential person who could become an
Yeah.
Orthodox Christian or become a
Yeah.
Christian. Like anybody could potentially wanting to become a follower of Christ. That's going to change your perception of them. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that you don't take the arguments seriously or you can't take theology seriously. Um,
But
but
disagree. Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is all over like monastic literature. Like you don't
Right.
want to have anything to do with the heresy or the heretic in a way. So that's real. But they're also saying welcome everyone like Christ.
Right. Yeah.
um, Saint Benedict talks about this all the time. Welcome the stranger, welcome the person you don't know, welcome them as if they're a Christ.
Yeah.
Um,
That's good.
and so you are able to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
That's people get tripped up on that. Like, yeah, you can actually do both things at the same time.
You can. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And I like the example of Ben. I think Ben is such a perfect example because, to my embarrassment, to my shame, when he was Protestant apologist, I think I shared this with you before. Like, and I've told Ben this, I had to apologize to Ben. I was not too much of a fan of Ben when he was coming at orthodoxy and all that. And it's easy to see as, oh, that's the enemy. They're against our church and this, that, and the third. And I was so happy for him when he became Orthodox. And then, kind of like what the scriptures say, like burning heaps of coal on your head. There's a sense of embarrassment because it's like, man, instead of seeing this like as this is the enemy, because I was ready to make a response video is going to be, instead of seeing that person enemy, it's like, man, that's a brother to be loved. And especially how gracious he is now. Like the other day, I was in his comment section. He's like, hey, come hang out sometime. He seems like a good dude. So it
Mhm.
makes me like kind of look at everybody in this space a little differently. Like even Canon and Creed or somebody else like that. It's like, we should be praying for them. We should be excited if God would do something, bring them to holy orthodoxy, but we shouldn't have our pitchforks out.
Right, and it happened to all of us. I mean, at some point,
Sure.
if we all experience change, and we all experience seeing new ideas and
Right.
having to wrestle with them, and so being empathetic, like, oh yeah, I was in that place too,
Exactly.
and um, and so I think that that's like super important when it comes to this conversation. So we are initially talking about sort of like the soap opera tribalism that's on social media. People love that. I mean, we can get really addicted to anger. There's a reason, and YouTube actually does this, by the way. The
Cool.
algorithm on YouTube and social media, it wants to ramp up the comments, it wants to ramp up engagement, and anger is one of the best ways to do that. And it's sad,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the way it is. Um, and so there's a real you have to be very delicate about this whole thing. About
Right.
I think about this quite a bit. Like, what's a responsible way to talk about this topic that we disagree with without making even your own people who like watching your channel like angry all the time? Um,
Mm.
and so I think, yeah, I mean, I would like to get better at that. Uh,
Same.
and I think conversations like this are one way to do that.
Mm. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I do want to show something on my phone because I think people are going to be surprised about this with the Wisephone. So on the Wisephone 2, they have this thing called um, the tool drawer. Let me see if I can pull that up and guys can see that.
Yeah. I see
There it
that.
is,
Mm.
right below my Venmo or other things. So you can have Venmo because right that a lot of people are like, well, I need Venmo for this or whatever.
Right.
But the tool drawer then has basic apps that are already sort of preloaded on there. So, like, you can have accountability apps on there for your family. There are banking apps. Um, I just searched for that Square appointment app. There's Uber and Lyft. So if you need like, I mean, I never use that. I never use this kind of stuff. But um, the only time I ever use Lyft would be like if I was like in San Francisco and there's like no cars. I don't have a car. Like, how do I get to this place? Um, but it's nice to be able to do that rather than like ride the subway for 3 hours. So it has things like that. It has health and fitness, weather, travel navigation. And then if you're not sure if your app's on there, then you just type it in on top and find that on there. So I was just actually helping um a friend of mine who has like a shopping addiction.
Mm.
And needed boundaries between their phone. I've helped people who have like like sports gambling addictions, which is becoming a bigger problem. All these apps for sports gambling, right? Uh
Yeah. Yeah.
People are I mean, men were already consuming a lot of sports, but let's throw in the ability to now make money by gambling, like even more. I did like a fantasy sports league when I was like in high school. You chipped in $10 and the person who won got $100. I mean, sports gambling has ramped up so much more than that, and people can dig themselves in a big hole. So that kind of stuff's not on the Wise phone. You're not going to have like what is it, King Sports or whatever. I don't know what it even is, but um, so that's just like helpful. I hope that's realizing what you can get on there might be helpful.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, let's see here, guys. Throw in your comments that you might have. For Justin, and maybe you have questions about the light phone. That's the Wise phone again. I'll say it one more time. You can get $50 right off right now
Mm.
until November 23rd, and then it goes down to $25. Um, I'm currently advocating for certain Orthodox apps on there, like the
With
Church
like the Bible.
Connector, or
Oh, that'd be
like
dope.
even just kind of like scripture reading. The readings.
The
There's a
daily
lot of
reading.
different ones on there that
Wow.
have the readings, but if you have a recommendation on like an Orthodox app that you like the best, throw that in the chat because I can email the Wise phone people and let them know, oh, most people like leave it in the comments of this video. This is the Orthodox app that I like, that I don't want to live without or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, I use hard copy books, but if there's like an app that you really enjoy, um, where you take in Orthodox spiritual writings or prayers, then just throw that in there, and then I can advocate for that to be added.
It's really cool that you got that relationship with them and that they're that's awesome. I like that.
Somebody asked, yes, it has the what is it, the Life 360 where you can track your family members. Can I track? Yeah, yes, you can. You can add that to your phone, to the Wisephone.
Mm,
And the reason why is I just helped somebody add that app to their phone because they're like, they were very hesitant to go to the Wisephone, but when they realized there's these 3 important apps that they need for their own family, like where's my teenager driver right now? Um,
mm,
and by the way, I will say this: there was a young man in my own hometown. I think he's probably like in high school, older, maybe 17 or 18. He got into a bad car accident.
um,
His family knew, though, immediately right where he was, and that app notified them that he was in an accident,
mm.
and that probably saved his life.
Wow. Wow.
So, I can understand why, like, anxious parents with teenage drivers want that app. Well, the Wise Phone has that app. So, uh, just be aware of that people do really enjoy that kind of safety app. So technology can do good things. Like, it actually can. I mean, it's probably destroying more lives than saving them. I mean, not technology in general, but I mean like smartphones.
Right.
I mean, lots of hospitals save lives, so I don't wanna say
Sure.
technology
Yeah.
in general, but I mean, like, overall with smartphones have probably been a significant, like, net loss with disenchantment, and I've even had, people call it an anti-sacrament, in a
Mm,
way of how it
yeah.
functions in a way. Mhm.
Yeah. I thought a point you brought up earlier about the whole creativity aspect. That was a good point. Oh, did I lose you? Okay, I thought my computer monitor went down for a second. But yeah, such a great point. Like think about like I think about when you're in the shower, right? Just all these creative ideas sometimes come like while you're taking a shower, and that there was a space for that, like this sense of like, you know, you have time to yourself. You're thinking through, and I think about some of my most creative moments on my own channel, like with the Holy Fire video, as well as like a video on like the gospel, how the gospel is distorted, and like a chrismation video. Like that happened in solitude. Like that happened in a space where there wasn't a lot of distraction. And I'm sure, Kyle, you, with the stuff that you're doing on your channel, some of your best ideas have come when you've had space to breathe, when you weren't consuming so much.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I
that,
mean, for me, late at night is a big time because, I put my kids to bed, I'm kinda wiped out. But since I have no technology in my bedroom at all or near me, all I have is my hard copy books. I can like read a book. I can write out like maybe a little if an idea pops in my head, write it down.
mm,
But you're right. There's all these new spaces that sort of open up. Like if I go on a hike, I don't have to worry about hopping on my phone. So for example, I was just gone for 3 days camping with my family, like, hiking and stuff, and I actually got behind on my emails, but there was no way for me to even email them. So I actually when I got back, I apologized to a couple authors who I'm about to interview, like, "Hey, I should have told you that I was gonna be gone for a couple days, but I wasn't thinking that I had no way of getting a hold of you."
mm,
And that was intentional. I could have brought a laptop, but I didn't want to.
right.
I wanna be with my family, and they were very forgiving because that's very countercultural today to say, I'm not going to have access for everybody at any moment of the day.
Yeah.
And I think some people have to get over that with their employer.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
actually an opportunity to teach your employer how life
And
should be.
boundaries. Yeah,
Like your
exactly.
boss should not be able to get a hold of you 24/7. If they think that you do, you have an unhealthy work environment
Right, right.
and you need to actually teach them. It might be kind of scary to say, I'm going to teach my
I'm
boss.
gonna teach my
I
boss.
don't really care. I just don't even care anymore. Like, I think
Right.
our world has gone so crazy
It's crazy.
that we actually, as Christians, have to teach. Um, whether they're in greater authority positions, we actually are called to actually teach them about here's the damaging effects of this technology. And this is one line that I used to use all the time, but I used it for having Sundays off with work.
Mm,
I always told my employers I will never work on Sundays, and I said this is why I told them this. when I was in interviews.
Mhm.
I will be your hardest working employee because I cannot be a person of integrity or hardworking without Christ because he gives me like great meaning in my life. Otherwise, if
Mm.
I don't have him, why am I even working here? He gives me
Yeah.
great meaning. So I would teach them in the interview why
Wow,
I
wow.
needed worship.
That's powerful.
And it always worked. And I tried to be one of the best employees. And
Mhm.
therefore you have a little bit of give in those situations. Not everybody can do that because they
Sure,
might be in
sure, yeah.
healthcare, right? Like a nurse that rotates, that can be difficult. But
Or a firefighter
uh,
or something.
yeah, yeah, exactly. There's those typical situations where um, you can't get out of it. But so I use that on my employer. But you can do this with your phone too. Say, look, I'm switching to a
Dumb
Wise
phone.
phone,
Right.
and you may not be able to reach me through email 24/7. I will check my email. You can even let them know. I will check it. I will be at work at these times, and then I will check my email um at 9 o'clock, like real quick or something. If you really need, just to make
Sure.
sure I didn't miss any, significant things. Or you're gonna say not you're not going to at all. You can teach them like good boundaries. And this is what every HR, anybody who runs HR should know these basic things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have boundaries with your work.
That's really good. Like you're hitting on something so important. Like these boundaries are key. And I think what we struggle with today, exactly what you said, we don't have boundaries. We think that we can be accessed at any moment. We can't. You know what I mean? Like that's not life.
Right.
Um,
And I
you
was going to
know,
touch on this real quick
go
too.
for it.
Part of this is a generational thing. Like I'm 40. I don't go on social media and I don't go on like X to share every thought that I have, even if I think it'll get like likes and tweets. People who are younger, and I've had to actually like people have had to show this to me. People who are like younger have a deeper issue with this.
Sure.
People who might be in their teens, their 20s, young adulthood, feeling like they need to express every thought because for them, technology and their brain are like interlocked. Um, this isn't for everybody who's in their 20s. I'm not saying that or young adult life, but there is that risk where you're not really having emotional boundaries with people. Like there should only be a couple of friends who know most things about you. Like you have your spouse, if you have a spouse, you should have a couple of like 2 or 3 like very close friends
Right.
and that you can share like very close things with you, your spiritual father obviously. Um but then you got to think about it like tiered. Like I would never say what you just said on social media because that you should only say that to like your best friend.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
sharing too much. Like that actually is damaging your own soul by being that transparent with strangers. Um,
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
going to share your bank account number on with everybody on X. Why are you going to share with them the most intimate details and thoughts in your head? Um,
Yeah.
so you got to
No,
be real
that's
careful. Now I understand there are not Orthodox parishes everywhere, so there might be a little exceptions in trying to find Orthodox networking and sharing with some of these things with good friends. That's different, but that's where I've noticed like people got to really work on their boundaries too.
yeah, no, there's a lot of wisdom in that. I think it's somewhere in the book of I think it's Sirach or one of the wisdom books, maybe the Wisdom of Solomon, that talks about this idea of like testing friendships, right? And so if you think about that, like, and I've talked to actually a good buddy of mine about this personally. I was just like, hey man, like you just met that person. I don't know if you want to just say all that. You know what I mean? Like you are putting yourself in harm's way. Like, and I'm not saying, like I respect the transparency. I respect like but like the friendship has to be tested. You don't know this person. You know what I mean? And if you move too quickly, you can hurt yourself, and it could cause disappointment and all kinds of things. So I think there's wisdom to what you're saying there. I think some things are just time tested, battle tested. How do people react during like challenging times or or how do they engage with you through suffering, or you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
have to go through stuff. Um, and yeah, that put a little muscle on the friendship.
Right. And I think, I think people are really struggling having deep friends. Like they're really people are very lonely, and they
Right.
feel like even when they look for a deep friend, they can't find one. And that leads to people
Right.
crossing boundaries with what they share online, I think.
Well, one thing that contributes to that, and you already know this, is is social media. So it's this weird paradox,
Yeah.
where you think by, you know, engaging with the stranger, there's a sense of like intimacy. But I think some of the best relationships you can have, not to say you can't have a genuinely great friend online. Like I've met some amazing people online, you know.
Well, like we haven't met in person, but like I consider you like a friend, you know?
Right, exactly. So yeah, so no, there's definitely a space for it. I think, like we said, it's a tool because this gives you an opportunity for us to connect, all over the world with all kinds of people and build great relationships. But also, I think now this is just my personal opinion. Primarily, I think people should try to foster the relationships in their area, cultivate what they have in their community, because these are the people you're going to do life with. These are the people that are going to be at your baby showers. They're going to, watch your kids, or you guys are going to do game nights and things like that. And it's hard to do that with somebody who's all the way in Nebraska and you're in like Philadelphia, so I don't know, but I think it's important that we really like start to invest in where we are, like especially parish life, man. And you can't be best friends with everybody. I think you hit it on the nail with that. Like there's that tier, you will run yourself dry trying to make 30 best friends. That's crazy. That doesn't even make sense. How can you have 30 best friends?
Yeah, yeah, we can't. We
Right.
can't do that. I mean, it would be fun, and if we had all this time, like, I'd have to have, like, 300 hours in a day, and
Right.
I say this all the time, and man, it would be great if it was 48 hours in a day so I could get everything done that I need to get done, but there's a reason why God shuts us down.
Right.
It's the same reason why we have to fast. It's the same reason why we have to go to sleep. He
Sleep.
shuts us
Yep.
down so that we realize we have to be dependent upon him.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody must sleep. Yep.
there is something very, yeah, like let Sabbath, let the land rest, let your body rest, let you have to have this recoup time. And people, they're also not sleeping as well with phones. We could
Yeah.
also add even just your ability to sleep because you have the blue light thing going on, or you might be waiting for this notification to come on, or XYZ. You might
Right.
just sleep better if you get out of your normal smartphone. Um, I know people who do struggle with sleep because they're just on their phones too much.
Right. No, that's true. It's true.
Actually, there's even a video online, um, talking about where like um, some monks in an Orthodox monastery. I don't know. It- I don't imagine this happening as much now in 2025, but maybe a few years ago, found out that there were like monks who just were struggling with being on their phones, and it's like, why would they have phones that they were looking at? You know what I mean? Um, Now this is coming from a video, uh, from an abbot. Oh, I can't remember the video. There's an abbot on Mount Athos, and he wasn't talking about a monastery on Athos, but talking about some monastery somewhere around the world. And he was kind of like shepherding it, and found out that there were like, yeah, young monks struggling with phones, and it's because, well, maybe they shouldn't have a phone at all. Of course, there are definitely monasteries they don't allow them whatsoever. Um, I don't have all the details on that kind of thing, but it wouldn't be bad if a phone had to be had, that it would be the Wisephone for maybe a particular person in the monastery for coordinating purposes or something. I don't know.
Hmm. That's good.
So, I mean, I would love for the Lightphone, the Wisephone, these kinds of things. It would be great to see more and more people, particularly even in the Orthodox world, kind of buying into this concept. that we are okay with giving up things. We are okay with fasting
Right.
for like the greater
Right.
outcome, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Some people have said that like you don't
Today's a
actually know
fast
what
day.
feasting is until you have fasted.
It's very true. It's very true. And I'm sure you could attest to this, like coming off a fast day. I mean, today's a fast day. But like food hits different on the next day. You know what I mean? Like, whereas opposed to if you always have it, it's just like it doesn't. It's not to say it's mundane, but it's there's something to that. There's something to having rhythms. We live a liturgical life. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's in the scriptures, by the way, where like when there is feasting, it's like slaughter the calf, have the cookout, pour
right.
the glass of wine, and it's a moment of celebration. During times of lament, there is ashes on the head, there is fasting, there is sorrow. It's associated with bread and water, those kinds of things. And so there is real biblical imagery to it. And the Orthodox Church has carried this on consistently for the last 2,000 years. And so asceticism is just, I mean, if you're not okay with asceticism, then you're not okay with, what it means to be a Christian.
Right.
Because Christ said, not if you fast, but when you fast.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think some takeaways. I mean, obviously, like this is not always black and white, right? So sometimes someone could tell, like I'm a black and white kind of person. Like I'll take something, I'll listen to maybe a podcast or read some kind of self-help book and just like want to be super extreme about it, right?
Yeah.
And that's not always realistic. Like you can't do that. Sometimes if you're struggling to do something, you have to just take a small bite, you know. And I think hopefully someone could pick up the wise phone if they do feel like this is a problem for them, and they want to like look into some kind of avenue. But if that's just not realistic for some people, I think one thing that a person can consider is just something small, like saying, okay, I'm gonna have a allocated time where I'm just gonna be able to browse on something that I like.
Hmm.
Maybe I do it from, I don't know, 5 to 5:30. Right. I'm just giving an example, but
Sure.
figuring out some kind of limitation. That way, it doesn't just drive them wherever it wants to go, because the algorithm will take people almost where they want to go, sometimes where they don't even want to go. Right.
Yeah.
And
TikTok has perfected this. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, but it's
right.
perfected that kind of addictive algorithm kind of thing.
Oh yeah. And I think part of it is realizing I'm not smarter than these guys. Like you have engineers and tech whiz that literally, like you said, design this thing to be addictive.
Yeah, they're like
And
drug dealers. I mean, in a way. I'm
so
being bad, but
so you don't want to like just beat them with willpower. I think sometimes willpower is tough. Like if you need to lock your phone away at certain times, or just have it out of the bedroom, and you say for the first couple hours of the day, I don't check it, right? Because everybody that's important to me is in the house, or whatever the case may be. Boom, do what you got to do. Some people probably check their phone for the first time in the afternoon. So just kind of doing something, just a little something that can help, I think.
yeah. I mean, to come alongside of that, one is I saw an interview recently with a professor, and he had to apologize during the interview. Look, my landline phone might ring during the interview because you can't control when your landline phone rings on your wall.
Right.
Like so he's like, just be aware that it could ring. But that to me was awesome. Like, oh,
That's
like
dope.
you're you understand this concept of like boundaries. It
Mhm.
also makes me think of this was a Catholic priest who gave the advice to like parents, like kid like teenagers should not be alone with like phones and devices in the bedroom, the basement, or the bathroom. Like
Mm.
just like realize they should never have it in these spaces at all, like whatsoever. You know. Um, and I thought that was, like, really helpful advice. He's like, you do have these things called alarm clocks, like physical alarm clocks that you can buy and put that in the room,
Yeah.
and your phone can be charging in the kitchen or wherever it is. So there's different ways for people to, if they're not on these kinds of phones, there are still ways to create boundaries. You might talk yourself out of it for various reasons, but you don't have to think of it as, oh, I just have a problem. You can also think
Right.
of it as,
Yeah. Feel
what kind of
something.
person do I want to become,
Right. That's
or
good.
what person was I a few years ago, and I want to get that person back. Um,
Yeah.
that can be a real thing. I don't think Tolkien would have written Lord of the Rings if he was attached to technology the way that we are today.
Mm,
And that really saddens me to think about how many authors and how many
wow.
potential saints, we could be producing if it wasn't for this
Right.
kind of addictive technology that's happening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, that's a good outlook on it. Not just like this idea of what is problematic, but like what you can be filling in, what who you can become. And I think that was, I mean, for me, that was a driving factor. Like who what kind of person would I like to become? Because
yeah.
I think if we just look at it from the, oh man, this is just a problem, we miss out on like, man, all the good that can happen with this distraction being moved out of our life. So I love that. Like some people could fill that space with reading, working out. I know people have growth mindsets. You brought up
Yeah.
token earlier. So like just the creative juices can be flowing if you allow yourself to be
Oh,
free.
it's been pretty much shown it's a different part of the brain than the consumption part of your brain. So if you're
Mm,
constantly consuming, you're not working out the other part of your brain that is the creative side.
yeah,
And so if you don't use it, your brain's like any muscle in your body. If you're not
you
using it, it
you
starts
lose
to
it.
like
Atrophy. Yeah.
fade, begins to fade. So it is something that you God gave us, like, all these parts of our brains for a reason, so there needs to be balance. And so when they actually can analyze our brains to see, like, smartphone use and an addictive technology use, and it's part of our brains on fire.
Mm,
It literally brain scans are showing that parts of our brains are on fire, which causes significant stress and inflammation even in the body.
on fire. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, which means that can lead to, I mean, if you're angry and anxious and addicted all the time, then that leads to lots of physical problems, not just spiritual, as well. So there are all sorts of reasons to be motivated to make changes and not be a part of the pattern of this world, as Saint Paul would say in the book of Romans. Don't be caught up in the pattern of this world, but be conformed,
Mhm.
um, to the
Renewing
mind of
your mind.
Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Well, I know you probably need to get going. I do too. Any last kind of thoughts or things that you got on your mind before we go?
Yeah, no, I think that was good. You hit on the nail. I think hopefully someone could take something from this. Take the meat, spit out the bones, whatever can apply and be useful for you. That code is there, the Wisephone code. So I think that's great. But yeah, I just think parting thoughts are you are what you consume. If it's about like becoming something, right? Who are we becoming? Think about the person you want to become and kind of just reorient your life to fit that mold of what you're looking. If you're looking to be a saint, right? What do the saints do, right? So read the lives of the saints. I've been reading up on some of the desert fathers recently, and so just people that you respect, that you aspire to, like which is the saints. Like learn from their lives and try to find what is applicable in this modern age. So no, man, I appreciate you having me, Kyle. It's always a blessing to hang out with you. And I just realized I haven't had you on yet. This is crazy. We got to get you on the Transfer Your Life. So uh,
Anytime, brother. It would be great to hop on. We did like a hangout when we both hit ten
oh
thousand
yeah,
subscribers, or 8,000 subscribers.
yeah.
We did a hangout with the three of us, but it would be fun to do some more things. It'd be fun.
And then I was having some tech issues that day. It's crazy.
Hey, it happens. It
Right.
definitely happens. I've had those days too, for sure.
Oh man.
Well, as we close out, real quick, just again, interview tomorrow night with Father Stephen DeYoung on
Oh
his new
yeah.
book, Biography of the Devil, the Bail book. So that's happening. Also, I'm going to be interviewing on Friday. I'll be interviewing. Where did the book go? Oh, here it is. Christopher Dr. Christopher Lockwood on type symbols in the Bible. It's a mystical
Oh,
commentary. This book is
been
really
meaning to
good.
read that.
This book is good. So I'll be interviewing Dr. Christopher on Friday. So it's kind of like interview week for me,
Wow.
Justin, Father Stephen, and then Dr. Christopher. So it'll be it's a very rich week, and I've had a lot of reading to do as well, which has been great. That's why I have the Wisephone, so I can read hard copy books late at night.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Well, guys, thanks for jumping in the stream. We'll see y'all next time on Barrel Aged Faith or the Transfigured Life with Justin and Father Jonathan.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
We'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.
Peace.